Hi,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Fantastic. So sorry, running a little behind today. Are you still good?
I'm good. I've
Okay.
got all the afternoon. So,
Oh, great. Okay, well, we'll do an hour, and I can't wait to hear. These conversations are always so bittersweet in the sense of, I hate that we're here. I hate that we have to do all these things, or that we need to do all these things, but I always love to connect with other mamas in the space that are out there doing amazing things. And I'm excited to hear about your foundation. And I thank you so much for wanting to come on and talk.
yeah, it is weird to be like so excited to meet someone that you like the only thing you really have in common is that both of your kids died. But that's been the thing that's been so surprising about this whole kind of stillborn journey is that there's this whole kind of secret club out there of
Yeah.
us moms that don't want to know each other. But then once we have to find each other, we do. And we're like, wow, these are like really cool people. And so often after like the last year, it's been your voice that I listen to when I'm just like feeling alone or I go for a walk
Oh
and
my
like
God.
listen to the stories. And once I found you, I started back like at the beginning, the very beginning. So just to hear your process evolve over time has been really helpful for me the last year. And it's kind of crazy too. You and I both actually became moms in January of 2022, and we both have three small boys, and we both like travel for EDM concerts. So maybe we're
No
supposed to actually be
way.
friends in real life, not just on a podcast.
Girl, our sons right now are like, finally, bitches, you're meeting. Finally. What took you so long? Oh my God, I love that. Wait, okay, hold on. You found me like I had already started the podcast, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you went back and listened to the beginning and okay. Okay.
Because I was kind of like I found you maybe like 6 months after the twins were born,
Mm-hmm.
as I was feeling like God, I feel like other people are like moving on and I
Yeah.
feel like stuck and I feel like crazy and I should be like moving faster in this process. So I was looking for kind of resources and support in that. And I found your podcast and I was like, I'm going to go back and like see how this process evolved for someone else. And so it's been really,
Mm-hmm.
really validating to be like, you know, this far into it, it still sucks.
It still
And
sucks. Yeah.
like the suck kind of changes over time, but it still sucks.
I'm so glad you found me. When a mom finds me, it's like, God, I'm so sorry that you had to go looking. But that's my hope, like you just said, that you can hear the evolution. And I think my last episode, it's like, this still sucks. I'm still here. Like, but I want you to walk me through everything. This is the first time we're actually really meeting. And I want you to start your story wherever you want to. You've heard podcast episodes before, so this is your floor to share in a safe space.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for the opportunity. And it is kind of weird talking about not really knowing where your place is because
Mm-hmm.
I feel a little bit extra out of place
Mm-hmm.
in being a twin loss
Yep,
mom,
absolutely.
and also being a medical professional in the pediatric space that had really never heard of stillbirth until it happened to a coworker. And that was really the only time I had ever heard of it. Nothing in training, nothing really even in my day-to-day interactions in
That's
healthcare.
wild.
And so part of it, my wanting to like get my story out there is to almost normalize talking about it. And I feel like there's still so many people that I know like very closely that still feel like they can't ask questions about things or like really
Mm-hmm.
still even want to know what all happened. And I think, my husband and I are still working through that too.
Mm.
And then you wrap in some of the work that we're doing with the foundation. We just still feel like we're kind of finding our place amidst all of it.
Yeah, and the twin loss is another category of the loss with an extra layer, an extra added experience that you don't find as often. And you have, not that we don't think about it every single day, but you are looking at your reminder every single day and thinking, why there should be one on the other arm, there should be two of all of these things. And so I'm happy that you are coming on to talk about this. I've not had twin loss on yet. So I want to hear your perspective and also normalize talking about that because not only is your son, your living son, a reminder that you've lost for you, it is for everyone else around you too. You know, the silent elephant that people don't want to, you know, you feel like you're a little storm cloud walking around like, you know, there's the chick that had the stillbirth, you know, and she's a bad luck. But seeing your son is, I'm sure, like people are like, ooh, should I say something about it? Should I bring it up? You know, and they don't know what to do. And I think this is also helpful not only for mamas going through the same thing you're going through, but other people, support people who really don't know what to do in situations to be supportive and to help. I can't believe you didn't hear about it. I mean, that's what specifically do you do in the pediatric field?
So I'm a physician assistant and I
Okay.
work in pediatric neurosurgery. So very, very specific subset of pediatric medicine, but I treat a lot of NICU babies, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of very premature babies with brain bleeds, kind of through the whole host of spectrum of pediatric neurosurgery. So I was very familiar with the complications that came with prematurity and very kind of familiar with navigating the healthcare arena. But then when you have to do all of that yourself and for your kid, it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, you know, the worst day of my life happened in the hospital where I work and where I go back to every single day. So there's lots of different kind of layers on here, different
Absolutely.
things.
And you are cover whichever ones you want, start from wherever you want to start so that we can, you know, I may interject with some questions because I want to fully understand the story. But yeah, where do you want to start?
So I have a 3.5-year-old son. We should start there because that's how I
Hmm.
became a mom.
Hmm.
And I was one of the people that I hate to say this, but like I didn't love being pregnant.
Mm.
You know, I just felt like
Yeah.
I like wasn't great at it. I wasn't one of these like radiating, you know, unicorns, just growing life and love. And so I felt kind of guilty that I didn't love that experience and really didn't connect with him until he
Hmm.
was born and had a very, you know, straightforward, beautiful vaginal delivery with him. Like everything I thought that I wanted in a delivery, it was.
Hmm.
And so I kind of approached getting pregnant again, kind of naively of, oh, well, this was easy and it'll be like the same experience. And I know how to do this. My body knows how to do this. And lo and behold, we got pregnant with twins. So I'll answer all of the twin questions that everyone asks. Twins in your family? No. Fertility meds? No, none of that. I was once asked if we were trying for twins. I'm not quite sure how one tries for twins, but no, none of those things. Just identical twin boys, which I I have lots of twins kind of in my social circle. My very best friend in the world has twin boys. And so it felt kind of like this, oh, this is just the next part in our
Hmm.
journey. But I really didn't understand how different a twin pregnancy is from other pregnancies and how
Which were they? Were they sharing something or yeah? What type of twins were they?
which it's beautiful that you asked that because that is like the most important thing that I think people don't realize. Like it's not just a twin pregnancy. It's really important how many placentas they share
Right, right.
and how many amniotic sacs they share. So my twins were monochorionic, meaning
Mm.
sharing one placenta, and then they each had their own sac. So they were modi twins.
Okay.
Um, and I didn't realize that that opens you to this whole different risk factors from
Mhm.
sharing one placenta. We all know the placenta is important in every aspect of pregnancy, but in twins specifically, there's just so many other things that can happen in a monochorionic pregnancy.
Mhm.
So very fortunate. I had a great OB team. I had a great maternal fetal medicine team, all at the institution where I work. And I got all of the appropriate screening, all of the Doppler scans that you're supposed to get, and everything seemed to be going kind of like it should for a high risk advanced maternal age pregnancy. Like all of the diagnoses, like I had those. Um, until one day around 27 weeks gestation, um, all of us can remember like the scan where you knew something was different.
Mm.
And I can remember like telling my husband, like something sounds different, something sounds weird in their heartbeat. And kind of skipping forward a bit, we found out that they had developed this condition called Twin Anemia Polycythemia Sequence,
Mm-hmm.
where they share red blood cells unequally. So lots of people know of TTTS, twin-to-twin transfusion, and that's kind of the more commonly thought of complication in monochorionic pregnancies. But this is actually a completely separate entity where it's not an imbalance of fluid, it's just an imbalance of red blood cells. So it makes one twin have low red blood cells, anemia, and the other one have a high number of red blood cells, polycythemia, which
Mm.
makes them each at risk for their own kind of unique things happening over time. So suddenly it became this even more high risk pregnancy of you have to come back for all of these measurements of middle cerebral artery Dopplers, which is how they monitor the progression of anemia or polycythemia. And it kind of became this question of, well, when does it become safer outside of the womb than inside of the womb?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no guidelines for that in TAPS, which is twin anemia polycythemia is shortened as TAPS. And so we kept being asked the question of like, well, what do you guys want to do? It's like, well, we want to have two healthy babies and ideally have as short of a NICU stay as possible. I was terrified of having my kids in the NICU where I work. I
Mm-hmm.
just biggest fear of like, I don't want to have NICU babies that are there for months at a time. So it's this balance of how long do we keep them in utero versus how
Mm-hmm.
long do we expect for them to have NICU stays? And there was also kind of this, like, there were just lots of cooks in the kitchen, right? Of there's an MFM doctor, there's an OB doctor. We had a high risk cardiologist because they thought that both of the boys might have an aortic arch defect. So it was all of these different opinions
Were
of
they
what,
all looking at each other to make the decision?
yeah, it kind of felt like,
Yeah.
well, you guys decide when
Yeah.
to pull these kids out, you know? And a lot of it too, the actual like guidelines that exist right now for delivery of TAPS actually has the like word in it of like parental preference. It's like,
What?
well, every like parent prefers to have like the best thing happen for their kid, and none of us know what that is.
That's
So
so
like
wild.
that is the number one thing that like to this day still drives me crazy of there's going to be other people facing this decision. And if someone had told me that like everything goes south at 33 weeks, I would have said, get them out of there at 32 weeks and 6 days. But no one really knows that.
Wait. So you found out later that it goes south at 33 weeks. How did
No,
you?
no, no, we don't know that. That's what I'm saying. It's like if we
Okay.
had that
Right,
data
right,
to
right.
say that for all the people who have TAPS, we know that this is what happens, which is kind of a segue into why we started the foundation
Mm-hmm.
to start looking into some of those answers.
Mm-hmm.
So diagnosed at 27 weeks, went twice a week for MFM appointments where they did Doppler scans, checking everything. And there's 5 stages of TAPS, one being the most mild, stage 1, and 5 being one of the babies has died. So I think that fundamentally, I always knew in the back of my head somewhere that one of the outcomes could maybe be that one of them died. But every appointment, we were stage 1, everything looked great. The answer was keep going, and we're going to plan a C-section during between week 34 and 35. And that was kind of what everyone had agreed upon was the safest thing. And I worked throughout my whole pregnancy. I kept working full time, kept momming my toddler, and really for a twin pregnancy, it felt pretty good the whole time. So I went on maternity leave on a Friday, knowing that the next week the boys were going to have a scheduled C-section. And my MFM doctor said, well, let's do one more scan just to make sure that everything's on track for your C-section on a Wednesday. And it felt kind of silly to me of like, we've done so many of these. It's been stage 1. It's been stage 1 the whole time. Everyone's saying they're growing. Everyone's saying they're healthy. But I just had this feeling of like, you need to go in and have the scan just because you've been doing everything you've been told to do this whole time. So went in the morning of Monday, July 1st, 2024, last year. again, thought this was like a routine appointment. My husband had an important meeting as he was like wrapping stuff up for paternity leave. So he stayed um, home and called into that meeting. I went to the test by myself, and they put on the Doppler monitors. And Kaiden was always like very active, hard to find, and they were moving it around and couldn't find a heartbeat. And just then the ultrasound technician came in and she started to look, and she was one of the techs who regularly scanned me. I felt like we kind of became friends over time.
Mhm.
Her name was Kelly. I'll always be very, very grateful for how just kind she was to me and my boys. But I could tell immediately when looking at her that like something was wrong.
Mhm.
And she texted my MFM doctor. And again, it never crossed my mind that like something was wrong. Like your baby has died, something is wrong. Just something was off. And he came in and told me, I'm so sorry, but baby B has died, and baby A seems to be in
Oh
distress,
my
and
God.
you need to have a C-section right now. And so he had gotten to know my husband over the time taking care of us. And he said, you need to call him and have him here immediately, because we're not sure how much trouble baby A is in. And so you need to have a C-section immediately. Um, so that's what happened. I still to this day, like thinking back on it, feel kind of dissociated from the whole thing. Like
Mm.
I can feel like watching all of this play out, um, and just being in shock. Still to this day, 53 weeks later, still just being like,
Dude, you
I kind
just
of
had
can't
the
believe,
first. Yeah.
yes, just last week. And so I still sometimes don't believe that this actually
Yeah.
happened.
It makes sense. I think the first year is a fog. It's a just get through it, just get answers and pour yourself into things that distract you. And then the second year rolls around and you're like, my God, this is reality. So was the death caused by the red blood cell differentiation?
Yes. So, well, yes, to the best of our knowledge, we elected not to have an autopsy on
Yeah.
Kaiden. Again, because no one really ever talks about as part of your like birth plan, like, well, if things don't go well, like, do you want to have an autopsy? Like, that's just not something people talk about, right? So then you're
God, they
faced with that
should.
decision. Now, I think about that all the time of like, I do wish, as morbid as it is, I wish that that was part of the discussions, or like, you should know to ask for a cooling device so you have more time to make these decisions. Or,
I
would,
agree. I really do agree. We do that for like other random stuff, like in case you die, like what do you want to do, you know? And it's like why is pregnancy always considered a good outcome? Why is there no like in the case where this doesn't go well? Because I feel like in the moment when you're in such shock, we make decisions and then looking back, you're like, shit, I wish I did it a little different. Maybe we'd always feel that way no matter what we decide, but I'm with you. I feel like in that moment having to make those decisions is wild. And the fact that like making the decision to cut open your that's a hard decision.
yeah, yeah. And just like kind of normalizing talking about that with the hopes that you never have to cross that bridge, right? But at least you know what your options are. And I'm so grateful to my MFM doctor who, after he told me your baby has died, he stayed with me until my husband arrived. And he actually told me, the MFM doctor said, he's been through this with, unfortunately, many, many women over the course of his career. And he told me
Interesting.
he's not this exact thing, but, unexpected
Yeah, but
loss.
still, like a lot of them are like, I've seen maybe three in my
Eh,
40-year career. And I'm like, that's all. Wow.
Well, here I was, already being treated by a very, very high risk
That's true. Yeah,
MFM clinician in the largest medical center in the world. This is kind of more expected for him, as terrible as that is.
that's true. Yeah,
But
you're
he
right.
he told me, he said, you have to hold your baby. He's like,
Oh,
many people, like your natural instinctual reaction is like, this is too terrible to
mhm,
even like acknowledge the truth of it. And he said, you have to hold your baby. You
mhm.
have to take pictures. You have to love on him. And you will regret if you don't do that.
Mhm.
And I kind of, I'm of course so grateful he said that, but I almost wish he had said more of like, most moms, like, or people can spend up to this many hours with your baby. I remember feeling like this pressure of like, I don't know, like, what's the right amount of time to spend holding my dead kid, you
Right.
know?
And then like if you're like, I'm done, are people gonna be like, you're done? Like you don't really like how are you done? Like
Yeah.
holding them, you know? There should be a better protocol, just like you said, especially in a very large hospital that's dealing with a lot of high risk. I do agree with you. There should have been more of a protocol kind of that he could have told you. I'm thankful he said that though. What a bless him.
Yes. Him
God.
and I'm sure none of them will ever listen to this, but I hope that they do. There was a nurse in the delivery room who took my husband's phone and took some pictures. And those are the only pictures that we have of Kaiden and Mateo together.
Oh my
I would have
God.
never had those had she not done that. So just like little things like that, that to that nurse, that was a normal day. Like that's a Monday at work. But for us and my family, like that gave us something that we wouldn't have otherwise had.
Mhm.
Um, so as I'm like sitting there being like, how long are you supposed to hold your dead baby? What are people going to like? I don't know how you ever give away your child.
Yeah.
In the back of my mind too, it's like, well, how's Mateo doing? They took
Right.
him away immediately because they could tell he was very sick. Whenever he came out, he was screaming, just this like very specific scream. And he started getting quieter and quieter. And it was actually my husband who said, like, he's not okay. Like he needs to go to the NICU and be stabilized. So they took Mateo away. And as I'm there holding Kaiden in the recovery area, and all these different people keep coming in, right? Like child life and the chaplain, all asking you all of these questions when you're just still in shock that this is even what's happening. Um, a nurse practitioner came in to update us on Mateo and tell us that he was very, very sick from his polycythemia, and he needed to have an exchange transfusion where they basically dilute out some of his blood that
Okay,
had
so
too many.
Mateo had too many red and Caden
Correct.
didn't and had less. Okay, okay.
Yes. And in TAPS, the donor, that's what they refer, the donor is the anemic one, and they tend to be at higher risk, both of sudden death and of long-term health complications like deafness and things like that. So yes, Mateo was the recipient twin who is polycythemic, and they told us that he was very, very sick and needed to have this exchange transfusion as quickly as possible. And I'm forever grateful to one of the neonatologists that I work with. She was not on call and she came in to perform Mateo's exchange transfusion herself, and started doing that before I was ever even able to go see him. She was busy saving his life. And then there's just this kind of like wait and see period of time where I was like by myself, that they had just taken Kaiden to the morgue, which I don't think I had even understood that like when I gave him back, that's where he was going.
Mm.
And Mateo was in the NICU, and I didn't know if I would be leaving the hospital with one baby or zero babies.
Oof. That part I have thought about the dichotomy between torn between the two and not knowing what's going to happen. If you're going to leave with one or zero, that and the recovery from the C-section, all the drugs, the pain, like that's a lot of layers, girl, to deal with. I'm sure there's a lot of this that you have not unpacked yet, and that's okay. Um, I'm going to assume that that maybe you haven't dug into certain parts of this because you had a living that needed to survive. So you probably were like, okay, this can wait, right? Like maybe your grief did it hit later?
Oh yeah, I definitely think that it 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 couldn't hit
There's
because
no
there
way.
was
Yeah,
still
yeah.
this like fight or flight survival mode of like I have to do everything possible to keep Mateo alive and healthy, and there's a toddler at home still that
Mm.
needs us. And so there was this kind of like shift into hypervigilant mama bear mode of like making sure that I did everything possible for Mateo. And I had a very, very difficult time um, ever leaving the hospital while he was still there. He had a 15-day NICU stay,
Oof.
and it felt so hard to leave him because whenever I had first gone to that hospital, I never imagined leaving with only one. So how can you leave him
Mm.
there behind?
Oof. That's heavy. And then not knowing if you're going to get a call once you leave that you need to rush back. It's hard to
And we
sleep.
did get one of those. And
Oh, of
it's like
course.
it, it I think people just don't realize how loss moms, I think our brains really do process things differently
Hmm.
of when something bad, even the littlest thing, like you talk about when your kid's being a little bit sick, or you told the story of swim lessons, and it's like all of a sudden your brain just like assumes the worst has happened,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
going through that with Mateo and like making sure that he was safe in the NICU where I work. And I know with a lot of the nurses and practitioners that were treating my kid, and no one knew what to say, right?
That's
You
tough.
you don't know what to say in any stillbirth situation. But then in a stillbirth that involves a living twin, most of the times the default was, oh, congratulations, he's so cute. You know, you must be so excited. And how many, like, does he have a big brother at home? And all of these just like not even acknowledging that there's another one of him.
Mm.
And so I
Looks
almost
exactly like him,
looks
identical. Yeah.
exactly like him. And so I almost felt too like that kind of perpetuated this delayed grief process
Yeah. Yeah.
because everyone was like, congratulations, look how perfect he is. You must be so happy. And, or even things like, oh, two would have been too much anyway.
Oh,
I wish, like, I feel like all of us stillbirth moms could make just this extensive list of stupidity that has been told to us. And then when you add the twin loss dynamic to that, it's next level.
well, did you do this thing where you were like, I can't be that sad. I should be grateful too, because I have one that's living and some people don't have any. Like, were you doing
Yes,
that ridiculous game in your own head? Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. And the whole like I can't fathom like everything that happens postpartum and
Mm.
not having a baby around.
Mm.
And so I was lucky in that sense that I did have a baby that needed breast milk and snuggles and all of that. And so it did create this kind of delayed grief phenomenon of, well, I do have a baby, like I'm going home with a baby. Um, so I do think that
Does
I'm
that still
still,
happen even a year now? Because you have a year, a living one, but, and so like his birthday, his whole life will also be
yes,
the day his brother was stillborn.
yes. And the thing that makes me saddest in all of it, and like what I'll probably start crying about for the first time is what's that going to be like for him,
Yeah.
you know? And so I think about like parenting him through that over time. He'll always be missing his other half. Birthdays will always be a little bit sad. And I feel sometimes like he doesn't get celebrated as much as he should have because this huge other thing happened. And like I
Hmm.
wish people knew like what a miracle he is. Like he was so, so sick. And here he is, you know, a year later doing great. Um,
Two things can be true at once. Always remember that.
yes. And it's like
Don't
I
have to
think that
figure it out now.
yeah, I think that like stillbirth in a twin or multiple gestation is like the ultimate masterclass and two things can be true
Hmm.
of both things did happen and here we are.
And you are allowed to handle the celebration, quote unquote, or the acknowledgement of both of them however you want to. If you decide to separate the days, you can do that. they're both acknowledged. If you put too much pressure on yourself now looking into the future, I feel like we do that as moms anyway. And it's like it changes. And Mateo may tell you what he wants to do. He may look you straight in the face at 4 years old and be like, "We're having a double birthday party. I want his name on the invitation." You never know, and let him follow his lead. I feel like, but you're right. It is an ultimate masterclass because you have to accept both things to be true, and that even makes it difficult because you can't even fall into one without giving yourself feeling guilt over not falling into the other one. Like as time goes by, it might be less about Kaiden and more about Mateo. And then you're going to have to, that pressure we put on ourselves is so much. It's so much. What did you guys do for the first birthday? Did you do anything?
Yeah, we kept it really, really small, which again
Good.
to the mom guilt thing. Like we had this huge first birthday party for our firstborn when he turned 1. So I felt kind of guilty that we weren't doing that for Mateo, but we just like spent the time together as family. And I had had a lot of sadness that when Mateo was born, he was alone initially,
Mm-hmm.
like that whole afternoon. So I spent the afternoon with just him and talking about Kaiden. And we did get like 2 little cupcakes that had an M candle and a K candle, and talked about both of their birthdays and talked about that very openly with our 3-year-old, who I feel like already totally gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's amazing how kids just like pick it up like that. And he's saying happy birthday to each of them. Like
Wow.
they've been here the whole year, which they have in his life.
You have so much weight on that one day that you are supposed to make the happiest day ever as a mama. But you have a death, you have a near death, like you have the NICU, you have all of those layers of him being alone in the NICU, and maybe you didn't spend enough time with Kaiden. You have so many things to unpack on that one day. You got through it. I'm really proud of you. And you acknowledged both of them. And girl, I forgot Trey has a birthday next month. I don't he it's like I got to do something. It's just multiples at this point. You know what I mean? Like we all have the guilt too, but yours is extra layered and I hope any other twin mama listening can release some guilt or blame or and give themselves some grace because it is a lot and it's uncharted territory. You don't have anyone to really go to and be like, what do I do here? Because stillbirth alone, like you said, is super secretive and nobody really talks about it. But the twin loss, but then you have the NICU as well, which I know from experience is a completely different experience that deserves its own unpacking. So you got through the first year. You got through it. You got through it. And now you're passing the torch already, which is incredible for other mamas to try to navigate this. When did you dive into a foundation, girl?
Well, I have to give my husband credit for a lot of that. He's very much of like a doer and make things happen. And I think that he kind of knew that he and I needed something to help us move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have all of these unanswered questions of like, what should we have done? There's not research out there. As a clinician myself, like I want evidence-based guidelines
I
to be
love
able to
that.
make decisions. And so I didn't have it. I want other families to have that moving forward. So um, as we were still in the hospital, actually, still me recovering from a C-section, and Eric is my husband, and I talking about like, what funeral home is our son going to go to? And like, are we going to have a service? Are we not? Like all of these logistics that no one thinks about. I had brought up the idea that I was like, well, I really like, I know that people are going to want to send flowers and casseroles and all of these things that, people do when there's a tragedy. And I wanted to funnel that somewhere else. And so I was looking for a way to specifically have that go towards research into this extremely rare disease. Like
Mm-hmm.
monochorionic pregnancies are like 0.5% of all pregnancies, and
They're
TAFs,
0.5% of all
all
pregnancies.
pregnancies. And in that 0.5%,
Uh-huh.
the incidence of twin anemia polycythemia sequence, spontaneous TAPS, is 3 to 5%. So we're talking about like extremely, rare,
And it's
small numbers.
unrelated to genetics, right? It's unrelated
Correct.
to you. It's just a, okay,
As
okay,
far as we know, based on
okay,
current
okay.
research, don't really know what causes it, really don't know the best treatment for it. There's lots of research into long-term outcomes of both twins. How does it affect them over time?
I'm going to
And
ask a question.
go for it.
According to your research, if they had been taken out earlier, would that have changed anything?
I don't know that. I
Okay,
do know that they were both alive on the Friday before that Monday.
okay, okay.
And so if if they had been delivered then, once they're delivered and they're no longer sharing a placenta, the whole TAPS phenomenon stops,
You're
right?
kidding.
Well,
Oh,
because it's all through the
okay.
placenta,
Oh my
right?
God. Okay, okay. So, well, okay. So with a pregnancy, does it progressively, well, you know what? I know the answer to that because as the babies get big, they rely on more, the placenta has to work harder as they get bigger. So the more the pregnancy progresses is when maybe the placenta goes into overtime or like,
Again, we don't know because we
geez,
don't
that's
have that.
wild.
We don't have that information. There's an amazing group out of the Netherlands called the TAPS Support
Uh-huh.
Group, and I've gotten very, very close with the lady who runs that. But there's really no international collaboration on we need this data to determine what's the best thing to do for treatment. So been partnered very closely with her in working on how do we get, outcomes from all over the world in this super, super rare disease of twin anemia polycythemia sequence. How do we find out how to better take care of TAPS babies?
Mm-hmm.
So as we were talking about, we wanted people to give money towards TAPS research. There really wasn't a place in the US that was doing that. And it was going to be hard for friends and family to do like international wire transfers to this group in the Netherlands.
We are a wild bunch.
Yes. So,
Asking people for stuff like that. That's so funny.
so my husband said, you know what, I think that we're supposed to do this. I think
Yeah.
that we should start a foundation and use that as to kind of fuel the fire for change. And someday I hope that it helps give Mateo a way to honor his story and
Mm.
Kaiden's story. And I think too about we have not yet had a family reach out to us saying, "Oh, we were just diagnosed with TAPS. What do we do? What are the resources?" Um, but that's kind of the goal of helping families once they get this, curveball diagnosis of here's the data, here's the centers that you can be treated at, and then eventually developing more evidence-based guidelines for how should, you know, TAPS cases be monitored over time. When should you just go ahead and get the babies out because it's safer on the outside than the
Mm.
inside?
Mm-hmm.
What happened in those final days of the twins' pregnancy? We don't know. And so we're hopeful that the foundation someday can help find those answers.
Did they did they do a placenta analysis
They
after?
did,
Yeah.
and there wasn't really a ton of information there other than confirming it was, in fact, TAPS. You can see a very characteristic difference in the color of the two sides of the placenta.
Fascinating. Jeez.
And then they also found that I had partial undiagnosed placenta accreta where it grows into the uterus. They
Yeah.
don't know if that factored into it either. So I was really kind of hopeful that the placenta analysis would have some answers, and it really didn't. Um,
Did you talk to Kleiman, Dr. Kleiman?
I have not.
Okay. I'm just curious if
I've,
he would know. I don't
yeah,
know.
I really don't know how much he
Yeah.
would know about, specific TAPS in general, just because it's so rare. But I would be curious to just like from the accreta standpoint, that's a pretty relatively common diagnosis as far as terrible things go. Just hearing
Wonder
how
how they
that,
missed it. Yeah.
especially having all of these scans, like so many scans. And I think maybe there was just like once we got the TAPS diagnosis, that was such a huge thing and we were
Yeah.
just following that. So I
Well,
do look back at all these questions of what did we miss?
from my knowledge of the Accreta, they thought I had it. To my knowledge, and I could be wrong. I sometimes am. They were only concerned if it was growing into the incision site because then they couldn't cut. It would be massive surgery, and I would have had to go to a hospital, not L&D. Um, to my knowledge, but I don't know what it could have caused. I'm just very curious as to just why he died. That's I want to know. I don't know. Sorry. I know it's not going to fix anything, everybody, but your girl likes answers. Your girl likes reasons for things, scientific reasons, not spiritual reasons, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, the fact that it's 2025 and we are having another conversation about placentas and nobody knows the fucking answer to it. And that
Yep.
to me is bizarre, beyond comprehension. It is the roots of the tree. It is why these babies grow and live and survive. And you're telling me there's no research, studying, data behind certain things as to why these babies don't make it. It blows my mind. But I can't, this is so incredible that you're doing this. And I absolutely love this because there are probably so many more out there that either went like maybe undiagnosed or they are just don't know where to go. And so you may be like calling the bat signal for all these others that need the help and the guidance. So you started this like really soon after Kaiden died.
Very soon. I think it was probably one of my husband's coping mechanisms that he
Yes, I
was like,
agree.
here's a task. I have to do this thing. I'm going to do this thing so fast. And I was actually looking at this the other day, the like articles of formation through the IRS for a 501(c)(3). Those were signed and finalized for us the same week that Kaiden's death certificate was finally signed because there was a delay in like signing his death certificate.
He
So
got a death certificate?
yes. So I think it actually varies by state, which was another crazy thing. I know. How many times do we hear this of like, there's nothing standardized, no one knows what to do. In Texas, which is where I live, if you have a stillbirth, you don't get a birth certificate, but
Uh-huh.
you do get a death certificate.
Okay.
I may be using the wrong term, but it is like a certificate of like a very official looking state of Texas, like
Yeah.
this person died on this day, this was the cause.
Okay.
But
Okay.
no birth certificate because technically you can't be born if you don't have a heartbeat or whatever seems to be
Okay.
the definition here.
What?
So
I'm
no birth
glad they
certificate,
called
no
it a
death certificate.
death and not like a fetal demise. Like it's
Yes.
kind of like, okay, I'll take it. But I think in Georgia I had to file for it and I didn't know to do that. So yeah, every state is very different.
Yeah.
Um, so wow, okay, that's heavy. But I feel like, did it help to do that in the same week?
Well, first of all, at the time, I'm not even sure it registered that that was all happening in the same week. And now I had to like look back on days and see that it really
Yeah,
was
girl, you
that
took
like
home that
last week of
morphine.
July.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Of like what all is even happening. Still, even did this actually happen? Like,
Hmm.
um, so yeah, all in the same week. And we've kind of been slowly growing over time and kind of getting our message out there. Instagram is such a small world that has introduced us to, the most beautiful people like you. I do feel like the TAPS bat signal is working, and I've gotten messages from other TAPS mamas as far as Norway. I have a close friend now in Norway, another TAPS mom, Italy, just all over the
Yeah.
world, people coming out with their stories that hopefully someday we'll actually be able to put together official database to have a registry of TAPS outcomes to be able to start looking at what are the risk factors, what's the best treatment, what's the
Hmm.
best delivery paradigm um, to really change things across the world.
Wow, girl. Casual. Just change things across the world. I love
For
it.
this very minute subset of twin pregnancies, yes.
And you know what? Whatever. That's what kills me. It's like, oh, it's such a small percentage number, but it's not zero. So then what are we talking about here? It's like stillbirth is so rare, but it's not zero. So we need to be having these conversations. Um, so like how do you get research done? Like who do you tap on the shoulder as far as in the medical world to be like, hey, hear me out. we need to conduct some more studies on this stuff. How do you do that?
Yeah. Great question. I feel like we're still
Thank
learning
you.
the answers to that. And I
That's
do,
okay. Yeah.
I do like to fancy myself like I still am a clinician. I do a fair amount of research in my day job, so I have some of that background. And I've also partnered with Stephanie Ernst of the TAPS support
Hmm.
group in the Netherlands.
Hmm.
And she and I are kind of starting to work on different international projects. We also just officially announced the formation of the Kaiden Paul Foundation scholarship that's going to be given annually at the Society of Maternal Fetal Medicine convention for people doing research into monochorionic twins.
Mm.
So we're hoping that by incentivizing some of this research, we'll start meeting people that are interested in it and find someone that's as passionate about this disease process as we are. And once we find them, like we are ready to fund you, we are ready to help provide the data. Like we're ready to make change happen.
When this goes out, I'll ask people to message if they know of anybody actively looking into these things. I mean, I don't have that huge of a reach, but I have some sort of reach that maybe people can tell others and be like, yeah, we know someone doing this. We have a lot. We don't. This is what's wild is that we don't have a ton of medical professionals in our corner. So the ones that, as far as the stillbirth corner, looking to make change, looking to do research, looking to stop these, make the numbers be less and less and less. And when we find them, we're like, okay, thank you for backing us. What can we do to give you more ammo? Like, what can help here? So anybody out there listening who knows of somebody who could assist in the process of this, in the progress of this, please message one of us, because that's what this is going to take. It's going to take us not shutting up about things, because the second we shut up, it goes away, because it gets hard. I'm not going to lie. Like, consistently talking about the thing that may have killed your son gets challenging. And the fact that he's gone is something that you're dealing with right now. So I can imagine sometimes it's like, today, I don't want to talk about loss, but you are going to keep going because it's motivating for you. And I love the idea that it's something that your son can have, Mateo can have, that's tangible of his brother, because other than that, in one photo, he's not going to have that many things. So I would love to try to help connect you with people to do this. And I'm sure you're going to get hit up after this, because I'll leave your Instagram and handle in the description so people can message you if they want some guidance on what they're going through. Um, what's next for you guys? I mean, you're now in the second year. You probably have barely processed the first year. Where are you kind of at now, having gotten through the first year, and you're like, what, 6 days, 7 days out of the first birthday? Where are you kind of at right now?
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of sense of things, I get this sense that I'm just starting the grieving process,
Yeah.
honestly. Like
Yeah.
like the first year of having a surviving twin and making sure that he's healthy and cared for and gone to all of his medical appointments and the hormones involved with breastfeeding, all of that. Like I feel like I'm just kind of starting to move into some of the process of actual grief, which is why
Hmm.
it's been so helpful to connect with other stillbirth mamas of like, there's not a time frame on this. You're not supposed to be done at the first birthday. Like it takes a long time, and quite arguably forever. It just
Hmm.
looks different over time.
Hmm.
And that's where I'll give a little plug for our snail logo.
Hmm. I
I
love it.
have a therapist that I was already seeing before this horrific thing happened. I started working with her whenever I was pregnant with my first son. It was like really hard pregnancy and hard transition into motherhood, just like from
Hmm.
a psychological standpoint. And before I was even pregnant with the twins, she kind of graduated me and said, like, you have the tools you need for now. When you find out you like need new tools, come back. And so basically I was like, okay, well, I actually need a whole new toolbox.
Yeah.
Like in
Hi. Yeah.
the
I'm a new
like,
person. Like, yeah.
yeah, this is completely different. So the first appointment I had with her after the twins' birth, she gave me this little brass figurine, tiny little thing of a snail that she said could be used for like a grounding tool to like
Mm.
hold on to. And she said that snails are actually only capable of moving forward. Like they're not able to actually crawl backward. They can go in circles, they can take a little break, but they're always moving forward. And so it may not feel like very fast, and you may have to kind of creep back into your shell and take a breather. And people are going to think that you're kind of slimy and gross and they don't know what to do with you. But that's okay. And that is grief.
Oh my God, I love
Yeah.
that so
Isn't that
much.
so great? And I've shared that analogy now with so many different grievers I know. Because that's the other thing. I think that us grievers all kind of find each other too. And you're
Hmm.
part of this different community. And
Hmm.
then whenever my husband, again, looking for like things to do, tasks to complete, I was like, make a logo. And he already knew that I was like bonded with snails now.
Hmm.
And he made this logo that actually had two little snails kind of transposed on top of each other.
Hmm.
And one was red, polycythemic, and
Hmm.
the other one was white, anemic.
Hmm.
And they were both there just moving forward.
Mm.
Um, So back
Wow.
to the original question of what are we doing? We're just taking our slimy little snail journey of realizing that I think right now I'm at a period where I'm crawling back in my shell for a little bit
Mm.
and like being sad and realizing that this takes forever and finding the tools to someday help Mateo navigate his sadness.
Yeah.
Um, but still remembering that we only move forward. We don't move on. You never move on from your kid dying, but you can move forward and carry that huge load with you.
Hmm. I love that. Wow. So powerful. Oh my God. You're smart to go back in your shell for a little bit and be okay with that and not answer to anybody. Oh, but you have a living you have to show up for. He shouldn't see you sad. Get out of my face.
Yeah.
Do what you have to
And
do.
like the snail analogy has helped in a lot of ways because I also, if I'm talking about other people that have been like incredible over the last year, I have two of my co-PAs at the hospital, Anmol and Gina, who helped me navigate coming back to work where this terrible thing
So
happened.
you did go back to work
I
there.
did go back to
Wow.
work, yeah, and I treat NICU babies who are younger and sicker than mine was.
Wow.
Um, and so those two specifically, Emil and Gina, have just been incredible in the last year, like holding me up, protecting me. They from very early on said, if you ever need a moment, like just text us a little snail emoji, and we know that you've like gone away for a little bit, and we're gonna come cover for you.
I love
And
that.
so to be able to communicate to them, like I have to go in my shell for a little bit and like cry in this bathroom because I just heard this NICU mom like complain about how hard it is to take twins home. Like,
Oh, Jesus. Don't you want to just slip a little note anonymously?
yeah,
STFU.
yeah,
But on that note though, for lack of a better term, you've been given some sort of unwanted gift to speak to NICU parents from experience. As a NICU mom myself, people spoke to me like everything was fine and cool and like talked in rapid fire terminologies, and it's shell shock. Speaking of shells, and you can walk the walk with them because you've been there, and you could speak to them on a level that's human, um, and comforting. So I'm proud of you for going back. A lot of people can't go back. And that's okay too. If you didn't want to go back, I totally understand it. If you wanted to like change and like become like a swim instructor, I'd be like, okay, cool, like whatever. But I'm proud of you for everything that you're doing. You're an
thank you,
inspiration, whether you know it or not.
thank you. I
And
felt like I had to go back because it's one of the places where I feel closest to Kaiden.
I agree. Yeah,
And I think that he helps me talk to NICU parents.
he does.
Um, and I find a lot of beauty in that every day.
And I think you're going to see the connection between him and Mateo is still there. I wouldn't be surprised if Mateo says something wild one day. He's got a forever guardian angel, but it doesn't make it any easier. I know. But they do guide us. I truly feel that they do. And I
And I
think,
think
yeah,
like use our living children as conduits for that.
absolutely. Absolutely. And your 3-year-old, he knows stuff. He knows stuff. He probably knows stuff that we wouldn't even believe. That's why I'm like, hey, Wolfie, do you see Brody ever? And he's like, what? But I'm going to keep asking him. I'm going to
Yeah.
keep asking him until he tells me, yeah, Mama, he was on a cloud with me before it came down. I'm going to be like, that's what I've been waiting for. He's
Yeah.
like a
No,
weirdo.
Luke asks the most like amazing questions of like, where does Kaiden sleep?
Oh,
And like he knows his name, he asks about him. It feels very normal for him.
and it
And
should be normal. The fact that people think it's weird that we talk about our babies that are gone. We're a family. That's a human life that is gone. And we're a family, even though you can't see them. So there's nothing weird or twisted about it. And like I said, I think the little living kids are going to dictate how this is going to go, whether we like it or not. If we're like not feeling it, they're going to tell us that they are, and they're going to want a candle, then they're going to want a cake for them too, and let them take the lead. And it's buckle up, my love. Second year, here we go.
I
You're doing
think that that's where
amazing.
like hearing your progress over the second year, third year, it changes over time.
It does.
And just
Yeah.
being open to that. But also, I'm very ready for whenever we're going to go to Dr. Joe's farm together, or,
Yes.
I'm so excited to like finally someday meet in person. My therapist calls them this sad Instagram moms that we've all found each other and just gonna all go to Dr. Joe's farm or an Millennium concert or something all
Oh my
together.
God, you're speaking my language, girl. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. It's work. It's going to happen. I'm thinking next year's the year, next year's the year. I think we all do need to plan something. I'm going to see what I can put together. Dr. Joe's ready for us whenever we want to go out there. I mean, we need maybe that serenity, and then we'll just go fist pump to and some smoke and some laser lights. I love that you love Millennium. That's fantastic. He's one of my absolute favorites.
We were in Vegas for my husband's 40th birthday, and Millennium happened to be there, and he was like ready to like reverse mortgage our house to have table service for them.
him and
Like,
my husband would get along.
okay, well then we can all go together on a table and make it slightly more manageable.
Do
There you
not
go.
tempt me with a good time, my friend. That will happen. That Michael's 30th birthday, I threw Michael's like 10 years younger than me, by the way. Um, I threw him a 30th birthday in Vegas, and we went to the Life is Beautiful concert. We saw Griffin and Kygo at the same time. It was still to this day one of the greatest trips ever. And we will travel anywhere to go see these guys. So I am so with you.
Well,
Let's do
us
it.
us too, and then kind of tying this all back up, what's ahead for the next year? Whenever we decided that we were going to start this Kaiden Paul Foundation scholarship, and I was talking with the CEO of the Society of Maternal Fetal Medicine, and like, could we get this in the works and like give it out in 2026? Like, let's go and make some moves on this. She's like, yeah, and it would be great to like have you guys there, come to the meeting. Guess where it is?
Stop.
It's
Wait.
in Vegas.
Stop it. I want to go.
Well, February 2026. It's
I
it's in
want to go.
Vegas.
Let's do
So
it.
we'll see
Can
who's playing.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's like residencies too that are there. Can you connect me with her?
Yeah, of course. That's the thing. I feel like each of us have all of these
Yeah.
little connections, and with all of our powers combined and all of our little stories that we all think are rare that are maybe actually not so rare, we just haven't found each other yet,
Yeah.
are here to make all of these connections.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. Girl, thank you so much. I'm so happy we met, and we're BFFs now, and I appreciate you telling your baby's story. I really do. And I know he is so incredibly proud of you. I know he found Brody, and they're sitting there watching us, making sure that we're okay, making sure
Absolutely.
this happens. Yeah. So thank you so much, girl.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. All right. I will see you out there. This will go out soon. I'll let you know when, but please keep in touch, okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.